Detroit Lions will rise.
All right. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Tuesday, February 25. We are just 2 days away from the Combine. This morning, wanted to have a conversation about the Detroit Lions roster. Now, we've got Lions news. We've got NFL news. We've got all sorts of stuff to discuss, but today's going to be a conversation. Not a ton of prep put in for it today, but let's take a look at the Lions roster. Are there going to be some big moves on the horizon? Are we going to be moving off of players like Taylor Decker and others that just re-signed, big extensions? Well, maybe there's some validity to it. It's something that I mentioned a few weeks ago. I heard it pop out again yesterday. So let's talk about all that and more when we come back here in just about 30 seconds from an ad from one of our sponsors. Good morning, everybody.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering YOOPERLITES, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from YOOPERLITES.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for YOOPERLITES with prices.
Totally didn't mean to cut that off that early, but good morning, Eric. What's happening?
Oh, man. Great day. Awesome day. Fantastic day.
Yeah, it can be. I've got to clear some news real quick. So
Sure.
yesterday I get an email from somebody that put out a song for Rockhound Cancer Foundation, and I didn't pay any mind to it, didn't pay any attention to it. And then upon getting some messages and further looking into it, I don't know what this person's intent was. Never spoke with them, don't know who they are, and asked them to clarify. So if you see things out there that are not directly related to me and the Rockhound Cancer Foundation, please let me know. It appeared that this individual may have been trying to collect donations for themselves. I don't even know if they're a fan of the show. I don't know if they're a Lions fan. I don't know anything about them. But not asking permission, not coming to us before you do something like that, utilizing copywritten tagline, slogan. I mean, intellectual property, that's a big thing. So please don't do it. If you want to participate, if you want to help, just reach out. I have no problem accepting help because we always need some. So now that we've got that cleared, and whoever you are, by the way, great song. Next time, just ask and let's talk about it, because we live in a funny world and I don't know what your intentions are. So good morning, everybody in the chat. Of course, this is a impromptu show this morning. I was not planning on doing it. It's going to be tough for me to sit here after getting these injections yesterday, but I'm going to push through. Eric's got some talking to do this morning about a few topics, and then we're going to roll into some roster review. We're going to review the mock draft 2.0. So what's up first? Packers crying as usual?
Yeah, the Packers cry wolf about the tush push. So yesterday it came out that there was an anonymous team that had put in a proposal to stop the tush push. And the owners' meetings are coming up here pretty soon, and they're getting a lot of things ready. Well, the tush push, also known as the brotherly shove, is a short yardage play where the quarterback is pushed forward from behind by teammates. The Philadelphia Eagles have become exceptionally proficient at it. The Bills do it. A lot of people do it. And the Packers' stance on this whole thing is the Green Bay Packers, led by team president Mark Murphy, have submitted a proposal to the NFL to ban the play. Murphy argues that the play requires little skill and results in near automatic first downs. You lost to him twice. He also cites concerns about player safety and the ridiculous nature of the attempts to defend the play, referencing the NFC Championship game. He also noted that he would like to return to the traditional QB sneak. Now, the NFL's competition committee will consider the proposal. Whether or not enough teams will vote to ban the play is yet to be seen. I personally don't see it going anywhere. I know for a while teams couldn't do it, and then in 2022 they started letting teams do it again. Now, my question is this. So when Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery gets to the 5-yard line and Penei Sewell comes up from behind and pushes him all the way into the end zone, that is no different than the tush push to me. So I see no problem with that. I see no problem with the tush push. What are your thoughts on it, Will?
I don't know. Look, the game of football is all about creativity. I mean, who would I be to say that you can't start a new trend in the NFL? I think that when you look at what Dan Campbell has done, reshaping this league on fourth down, and now you're seeing a lot of other teams follow suit. It's kind of the same thing, right? Or how about, I mean, the tush push, they've obviously identified they have the right players, the right personnel. They've mastered it. They know what they're doing. Anyone that really does it or tries to do it, they're probably going to be successful. But I don't think it's fair to eliminate something because you can't stop it. If there was an unfair advantage for whatever reason, if there was a bunch of injuries that happened during this play, then yeah, you could probably review it. But again, I will point back to Dallas game 2023, where the Lions perfectly executed, Taylor Decker's 2-point conversion. They used a lot of misdirection. They tried to confuse. They didn't get it because the NFL couldn't understand it. The refs weren't prepared. Are you going to take that play away too? I mean, again, had the refs actually gotten it right because they failed, I think that this falls in line with the same thing. Dan is looking for ways to be creative. So are the Eagles, and so are the other teams around the NFL. I feel like this is just part of the game, right? The whole game of football is to confuse your opponent, right? To be better than your opponent. Somehow, some way, they don't know what you're doing, which is really hard to do after 100 years of football. I mean, we've kind of seen everything to a degree. So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, and we've seen some, what do you call it? Some really unique ways of trying to stop it. Like in the NFC Championship game, that Luvu kept jumping off sides.
Yeah.
Well, you can only jump off sides so many times before they call it a touchdown. And then in the Super Bowl, what's his name? Chris Jones, the big guy for Kansas City, he lined up sideways so everybody could push into him. But apparently, I kind of looked some stuff up, and it's illegal for the defensive guys to push their player from the back.
Right.
But it's legal for the offensive guys. Let them all push. If they want to push, let them push. And player safety, they're lined up inches from each other. It's not like they're running from super far away or anything.
So you just brought up a unique instance, and I would have to dive a little bit deeper into the rules, which I have not done. But on a traditional field goal, right, you can't even line up over the center. Like, you have to be on the outside shoulder. But this is not a traditional field goal, right? They're lined up in a tight formation, goal line stance formation, and they're obviously going to do some sort of a sneak, which is the tush push. But pushing the defender from the backside, if that's illegal, then maybe that's where the issue is. Because if the offense can do it, why can't the defense do it? And then what's going to happen when someone is controlling your body for you and you are out of control and now you're injured? You get a neck injury. I mean, I could see this happening, that a neck injury could happen where you're pushing this guy from his tush and he's not wanting to go this direction because it hurts. He's jammed in something, but you're still pushing. It's a little too late. So I understand that part of it. If there was a threat of injury, but beyond that, maybe they just need to identify the rules a little bit more as to what they can and can't do. But I wouldn't get rid of the play. I think, Dan Campbell's just going to go for 2 points all the time.
Yeah. My final word on it is this, that I'm surprised that the Packers put in this submission, but then on the other hand, I'm not surprised that the Packers put this in.
So I didn't actually see the submission as far as were they trying to eliminate the play wholly or make it safe?
They want to get rid of it.
They want it gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
they say it's unfair advantage and player safety. That was their two.
Player safety. I could agree with that. I think that there's always an element of player safety in everything that they do. That would make more sense to me. But unfair advantage, well, stack the box.
Yep.
Get some bigger guys in on fourth down or whatever, or the 2-point conversion. So speaking of rules, we do have more expansion of replay rules that have been offered up. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about the NFL's stance here to maybe make a major adjustment in the rules for this season?
So I got looking into this yesterday, and this was a very long article. So I had to pick out the most important places and the most important things in this article. So the NFL is set to make a major adjustment to their replay assist in 2025 amid scrutiny of their referees giving Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes too many calls. Surprise, surprise. According to Adam Schefter, NFL Replay Assist is set to expand heading into next season and will incorporate plays that include the quarterback slide. The NFL expanded their replay process last offseason. Previously, replay officials had only had the authority to weigh in on the administrative matters or during formal reviews. And this is per Anthony DeBona of Pro Football Network. The league took it a step forward in 2024, allowing those replay officials to assist their on-field counterparts with real-time corrections, assuming there's a clear and indisputable video evidence of what was wrong. Okay. So, like they could tell them if the guy was inside the box or if it's intentional grounding, that kind of stuff, help them out real quick. In addition to standard corrections like ball placement, the NFL also allowed these replay officials to correct on-field officials on penalties like roughing the passer, late hits out of bound, and intentional grounding. Volan expects the league to take a step further for 2025, with the writer believing replay assist will also include calls such as face masks and QB slides. So wouldn't it be nice for them to be able to review a face mask? The Hail Mary. Maybe we get that game if there was the phantom face mask just never gets called.
Yeah, there's wishful thinking, right? I think at the end of the day, pausing a game for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to get the play right, to make sure the outcome of the game is what it should be. Yeah, why not have more replay assist? But I think it also needs to be transparent at the same time. We've seen what the UFL has done, and I think transparency is huge. I mean, that's the whole basis of this channel, is trying to be transparent about things. Same thing for the NFL. Like let's have a little bit more transparency. What happened with all the replays? So, Eric, you went to almost every game last year, right? So,
yeah.
We're missing a ton of replays in the stadium. For some reason, they're just not as many as there used to be. And it's the ones that are hotly contested by fans. It seems that they're not putting up on the screen. And I don't understand that.
What I wish there was somewhere in the stadium, like if you go to Las Vegas and go to their stadium and you sit in certain sections, on the backs of the seats there's a TV screen and it has a live broadcast of the TV broadcast in your seat back, so you can watch what is actually happening on TV while you're at the game. It's going to be a couple seconds behind or whatever, but at least you can see the replays, because live at the games, you don't get replays, and the replays you get are like stadium cameras. They're not necessarily the TV broadcast cameras.
Right.
So it's completely different looking. We get a different look at it, and I don't know if the broadcast gets that stadium feed as well, because the stadium feed a lot of times shows you stuff that you don't see on the TV feed. When I go home and watch it again on TV, I'm like, oh yeah, it did look kind of different on TV, but in the stadium it looked completely different. So
yeah,
I
angles,
don't know.
I mean, angles are important, right? And I think that you're going to get a lot more angles with, a lot of the TV broadcasts. You've got guys on the ground, that are doing a good job at trying to get all the different angles. I mean, we see the NFL, media people all over the place. And so angles, I think, are absolutely necessary. Oftentimes we see like a pylon review or, pylon cam or something. They are using more pylon cams up and down, the field now. If you notice that where the 1st and 10 marker is, or where the first down marker is, there is a pylon with that flag at all times now, and they move that pylon down, down the field as they go. So they are trying, but I would tend to agree, yes, that reviews are they've been less and less and less and less for whatever reason. And I've said that during, while I'm sitting in the stadium. Unfortunately, I have to try to turn on the game, on my phone, and we know that Wi-Fi is terrible in a lot of these stadiums. It's tough. You've got a lot of convergence of people in one area, and the Wi-Fi is terrible. So yeah, if they could increase the Wi-Fi, and while everyone, here's a thought to your point, right? If you've paid for a game ticket, you should get a free pass for that day's game on whatever broadcast it's going to be on. So you should get a free pass where you can just log in to the app, whether it's the Lions app or the Packers app or the Bears app, and you can watch that game live because you purchased a ticket. There's a thought, NFL. Give everybody an opportunity to watch it live while they're in the stadium. It's only good for one device or something. That way that you don't get a bunch of people using it.
Put a screen in the seat back.
Yeah, I doubt they're going to do that. They're not going to spend thousands and millions of dollars to put screens in those seats. You know what I mean? And then look at the Packers. They don't have seats. So where are they going to be? Where are they going to be? But yeah, I feel you. So the expanded replay rules here, they're talking about, again, give us a quick recap. What rules are the most important rules?
Yeah, so the two main rules are face masks and QB slides. So apparently last year when Patrick Mahomes was taking slides, they weren't putting the ball down at where the beginning of his slide was. They were putting it more towards the end, and that was more of a judgment call by a ref. So replay is going to be able to look at that real quick and say, nope, he's down at the 30, not at the 34. And then face mask, whether it was or wasn't a face mask. And these are quick reviews. These are on the fly reviews. These aren't reviews that are going to take 5 minutes. So it's not going to add anything to the game minutes wise. I don't think it's supposed to be very fast, not full on reviews. And I think that was it. Just those two things that they're putting in.
Yeah. So, Brandy, yes, they do have an app. I just posted it in the chat. So there's a link there that you can go, on your computer or phone, whatever, and then there'll be an option to download for the App Store, either iOS or Google Play. The Detroit Lions have an app that's where your season tickets, or whatever you're doing. They've got a bunch of stuff in there, a bunch of cool stuff in there throughout the season. Get a lot of updates. And then Derek Lewis, great point. He says, great ideas, Will, but unfortunately the NFL is not interested in good ideas. I would agree that it seems like some of the best ideas, the ones that are probably the easiest to implement, they go by the wayside, and they're not listening to us anyway. So
yeah,
maybe someday.
I was listening to XFL NFL radio on the way to town and back yesterday, and this was the exact same thing that they were talking about, and that's why I went home and looked this up. And their thing was, why does it take 12 owners meetings and so many meetings with pressure from all of the fans and all of the teams to finally get something changed? Why does it have to take so long? And their arguments were, and these were NFL players talking now and a former GM, and they were saying, why can't this stuff be done quicker? And let's just make it so everything is quickly reviewable and move on. Why have the drama of only these two plays? Why not just say it's everything? Here we go. Let's make it quick. Let's make it fast, and let's get everything right. Because at the end of the day, that's the one thing that the NFL needs to do is referee a fair, equal game and get things right. When you get it wrong, you're everybody's human. You're going to get things wrong. I think
you have the answer. I think if we want to slide on the tinfoil hat for just a moment, I think that the answer is this. They have to make sure that within the construct of their agenda for that season, whatever it is, that is going to be met. And if there's too much replay that exposes what's really going on, then yeah, that doesn't help them. That hurts them. So if you are one that believes that there is a narrative, if you believe that there's an NFL script, or if you believe that maybe, the powers that be just want to have a little bit of extra control over what's going on for the NFL season, then yeah, some of this stuff will not fit within, the construct of the NFL's plan. And so depending on which things are reviewed a little bit more, and you're kind of opening up, or pulling back the curtain, right, of Wizard of Oz, and you're giving people more access, and billionaires don't want you to have access, right? They don't want you to know what's going on. So I would say that that's probably the biggest point. I could be totally wrong here, but I would say that the biggest issue here is transparency. It always has been. So at some point, the NFL is going to have to get it right, because now, you've introduced betting now for quite a while. And I think that ever since betting has been installed in the NFL, a lot of things have gotten worse. And I think that it starts with penalties. I think it starts with, simply looking at what happened this season, with the Chiefs, and what I spoke about yesterday with Taylor Swift and adding $1 billion to their bottom line. They don't want to lose that. They want to grow that. And I feel like there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, but who am I? Who am I to say that they should change something, I guess. Combine coming up here in 48 hours, roughly. We do have a couple of meetings today with Detroitlions coaches. I'll probably be live for both of them, assuming that I'm feeling all right. But Ashton Genty, what's going on with Ashton Genty? There was a couple of other names about the Combine and what they're planning to do or not do.
Yeah, earlier this week, I had talked about Shedeur Sanders not wanting to do on-field drills at the Combine, doesn't want to hurt his stock. Well, now 2 more of the top prospects are not going to do drills. And the first one is Ashton Genty. Another day and another top draft prospect is deciding not to participate in any combine drills this week in Indianapolis. Now running back Ashton Genty, who many think will be the top running back taken in the 2025 draft, has decided not to participate. Will this hurt or help his draft stock? Why more and more top players are skipping out on the NFL Combine? And then we have another one. Defensive end Abdul Carter's agent told Adam Schefter of ESPN that their client will not be doing on-field drills. Carter injured his shoulder in Penn State's playoff win over Boise State and played through it in a loss to Notre Dame, but was only cleared to return to full workout a short time ago. And they fully expect Abdul to be recovered in time to work out at his pro day at Penn State, and he will perform at a very high level, said Drew Rosenhaus, Carter's agent. March 28th is the date of Penn State's pro day, which gives Carter, who is widely projected to be a top 5 pick, over a month to prepare for his moment in the spotlight. So there's 2 more who are not going to be working out at the Combine this weekend.
Okay, so as of right now, we have about a handful, maybe a dozen players out of the 330 that are invited that are typically not going to do the drills. I mean, this happens every year, every season. You have a handful of players that are not going to risk it. They don't want to have a bad day that could hurt their stock. If they have a great day, obviously that can help their stock, but players like Abdul Carter can probably get away with it. He's going to be a top 5 pick regardless. And if they're going to be doing pro days, they'll obviously have an opportunity to put on a very similar style of the Combine at their pro day event, where it's kind of rehearsed. They know everything that's going on. But I would really like to ask this question to the Combine people that are putting this stuff together. If your player that you invited is not going to do drills, then why are you not bringing another player in? Bring somebody else in that does want their stock to rise and they feel like they should have been invited. So there should be some other, lottery or something going on here. I know I keep bringing up all this crap that the NFL should do, right? I have no place in doing that. But I'm sorry. If I was 331 and I missed the cut, but 5 or 6 guys aren't going to do the drills, well, I should be invited then. If I want to go do the drills and I want to show the world who I am, then I should be able to be there. Especially if these guys, because you're not taking anything away. If they're not doing the drills, well, I'm just sliding in where they were. I think it's that simple. You can still go through the interviews, do all that stuff, but if you're not doing on-field drills, I don't think you should be there at all. I don't think that you should be allowed to participate. I mean, why? Why participate at all? Just let somebody else that needs the combine. Far often we see guys that go undrafted. A lot of those players haven't been invited through the combine, and then they turn out to be pretty damn good football players. All we did, or all the NFL is doing is hurting the potential future of these athletes by not getting an opportunity to be drafted and have some guaranteed money and a bigger contract and things of that nature. So if you're not going to do the drills, then I think that you should allow somebody else to do the drills and allow somebody else to be there and have an opportunity. Maybe I'm just trying to be too fair. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I
every year we
wondered
see
that
this.
as well.
Every year we see a handful of guys that sit out. Anything else you had for that one?
I don't think so. Yeah, just the fact that I think Abdul Carter is the only one that really shouldn't work out at the combine because he's coming off of an injury and he just got cleared to get back to working out again.
Makes sense.
So him, I can understand. The other ones, it's for personal reasons. It's not for physical reasons. Physical reasons, that's one thing. And with physical reasons, why not? You know ahead of time that they're not going to make it. So why not pull someone else up, let them go instead?
Yeah, I totally agree. So last night I did mock draft 2.0, and went a lot longer than I expected. I'm trying to do these things a little bit quicker, but then this morning, The Athletic put out NFL mock draft 2025 college football writers weigh in on the first round's top picks. And I felt this was interesting. So I want to go back now and let's review what I did last night. We'll be quick about it, but there's mock 1, there's mock 2. Now, let me explain for those of you so you can understand what I do. I don't do any trades in the first couple of mocks, number 1. Number 2, the first one I do is kind of more so, these are the guys that I feel are the better athletes that probably deserve to be chosen in the first round. Not all of them are correct because we don't have any information. Mock 2 is kind of where I see, okay, if the Titans were to be smart, they don't need a quarterback. They would take the best player overall, which would be Carter. So that's kind of the history of what I do. Once I get into mock 4 and 5, it's after the combine. And in fact, mock 3 will probably be after the combine. That's where things are going to start to dial in a little bit more. My final mock of the year, that is where I've been able to hit on 7 of the Detroit Lions draft picks out of the last 2 drafts. By name, by round, almost by the exact position they were taken. That's unheard of in this business, and I'm hoping I can continue it this year. So let's talk about mock 2.0 last night. Let me see if I can just get 2.0 off the screen here. There we go. But now I'm on the screen. I don't want to be there. All right, we're going to leave it up. Eric, are you in the screen? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, good deal. So Tennessee Titans, according to the NFL, college football writers weighing in on the top picks. Now, this came out this morning, so I did not have the benefit of being able to review this before I did my mock last night. And I try not to review anything. But they had Cam Ward going to the Tennessee Titans. They had Tennessee Titans staying at number 1. I don't know if they did any trades in this. It doesn't appear that they did. So obviously we don't agree on that. I have the Tennessee Titans trying to be smart for once, forget a quarterback, beef up the trenches, and worry about a quarterback later, especially in next year's draft. Make your team what you want your team to be before you add that last piece, which is a rookie quarterback. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. Well, I don't have them being smart. See, I think it would be smart for the Browns that if they do trade Myles Garrett during the draft, or before the draft, and they get a lot of picks, well, that gives you 2 options as a Brown. One, are you thinking, okay, let's get out of this pick. Let's add to our bevy of picks. We'll still be able to stay in the top 10 for sure and grab a game changer, but we're going to have multiple picks now that we can build our team, forget a quarterback, or Maybe it's said the other way. Now that we have all these extra picks, we can add a quarterback and build our team. And if they were to just back off number 2, add more picks, trade Myles Garrett, clear some cap space, I think the Browns are back in this thing in less than 3 seasons. They were just an 11-win team, 2 seasons ago. There's no reason why they can't be. But I think it's going to require them to get rid of Myles Garrett, clear the cap, and then trade back. But I have Cam Ward going to the Browns because I felt that they're just not going to be smart enough to do the right thing. Football Writers had Cam Ward going number 1. They had Abdul Carter going number 2. They have Travis Hunter going number 3 to the New York Giants. Look, I could imagine, Travis Hunter fitting on just about any team here. But then again, I think the better play for the New York Giants is let's build your offensive line out, grab the best tackle available, or trade back. Again, if I was a top 5 pick in this draft this year, I would be trading back. There's not a definitive quarterback that I think anybody really loves. There may be 2 quarterbacks that could be decent. It's just not a good quarterback draft this year. So trade back if you can. The teams that want to reach up to get the Abdul Carters, to get the Will Campbells, to get the Travis Hunters, the Mason Grahams, the Kenneth Grants, those are the teams that are going to spend some bucks, right? They're going to spend some cap to move up. Number 4, Will Campbell. I had Travis Hunter going there to the Patriots. They had Will Campbell going to the Patriots. Jacksonville Jaguars at number 5. They had Jelon Walker. I had Mason Graham. Number 6, this is where we do agree. I think that the Raiders are going to get Shedeur Sanders. They also agree. But I think that the Raiders are probably going to try to move up to do that. I don't think that they're going to let their guy go. Number 7, New York Jets. Number 7, New York Jets. I had James Pierce this week. I had Mason Graham last week. They have Mason Graham this week. So makes sense, I guess, from that perspective. Either one you can't miss with. Number 8, Panthers. I had Mike Green this week. They had Mike Green this week. I had James Pierce last week. Number 9, New Orleans Saints. I had McMillan going with the wide receiver. The college writers had Edge, Mykel Williams. Last week, I had Will Johnson, cornerbacks, kind of all over the place right now. Number 10, the Bears. I have Mykel Williams. Last week, I had Jack Sawyer. This week, the college football writers have Armand Membu, offensive tackle. I think that's a great move. Number 11, I have Kelvin Banks going to the 49ers. They clearly need to help Brock Purdy, and the college football writers agree. They think that Kelvin Banks is a perfect fit for San Francisco. Last week, I had Jelon Walker, given the issues they've had with their linebacker room over the last couple of weeks. Kind of makes sense they might need to replace their linebacker, but giving Brock Purdy an extension at some point, they're going to need to firm up that front line. Josh Simmons, the Dallas Cowboys. This week, I have them taking Kenneth Grant. Why not? Firm up that defensive line. Mozzie Smith has not been exactly what they expected to this point. Why not double down on a Michigan guy and bring in Kenneth Grant, who clearly is going to be one of the better defensive tackles in this draft and probably for the foreseeable future in the NFL. Last week, I had them taking Ashton Genty, and I thought it was a perfect fit for the Cowboys. I think that they need a running back, clearly. Well, the college football writers this week, they also agreed. Ashton Genty makes a lot of sense for the Cowboys. 13, Miami Dolphins. Now, this week, I have them taking Josh Simmons, tackle. They've got to do something with Tua Tagovailoa. They got to keep him upright. The guy's had too many concussions. Why not protect the guy? He obviously deserves it. Last week, I had Malachi Starks. And this week, the college football writers agree that Malachi Starks seems to be the most important move here for the Miami Dolphins. So we agree on a few things here. Now, next up, we've got the Colts. I had Tyler Warren, tight end. I think giving Richardson an opportunity to have a blocking tight end that can also catch passes, but I view Tyler Warren more as a blocking tight end right now. I got to see his combine work. Hopefully he's one that works out. He should. Last week I had Mykel Williams, edge, going to the Colts, but I don't think that play makes a whole lot of sense. Why not build around Richardson? This week, the college football writers agree that Tyler Warren makes a whole lot of sense here at number 14 for the Colts. Number 15, Falcons, Shamar Stewart. Look, this week I went with Jahad Campbell. This guy is extremely exciting. If somehow Jahad Campbell slips and makes it all the way down to the Lions at 28, that is a no-brainer. You cannot pass up on this guy. Last week, I had them taking Nick Scorton. Again, another can't-miss prospect in this draft. The college football writers agree that defensive line is probably going to be taken, but they went with Shamar Stewart this week instead of an edge like I did the first week and linebacker like I did the second week. 16, Arizona Cardinals. College football writers said, hey, Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. Well, last week I had Will Campbell going there, had him slipping a little bit. This week I went with Jade Barron. Now, Jade, I think, is climbing up this draft board. He's an exciting prospect, but again, combine means everything. Just to kind of quickly go through this, Bengals, I had Luther Burden giving Joe Burrow an option there on the outside. They had Will Johnson, cornerback. Seahawks, I had Josh Connerly this week. They also agreed with Josh Connerly this week. 19, Will Johnson, corner, going to the Bucks. Tampa Bay says Donovan Ezrakow, edge, Boston College. The Donovan Ezrakow, love this guy. His tape's incredible. This is another guy that I would not pass on if I'm a Detroit Lion at pick 28, if he's there and some of the other players are not. Number 20, that's where I put Shamar Stewart this week. And the Denver Broncos, according to college football writers, love Colston Loveland. I don't think that's a bad play at all. Matter of fact, the previous week, I gave them a wide receiver, but I like the fact of giving Bo Nix a tight end, especially a pass-catching tight end. Number 21, Pittsburgh Steelers. I went with Colston Loveland, so just one pick later, that's where he went for me. They went with McMillan, the wide receiver. I have McMillan also being a great option here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last week, that's what I gave them, was McMillan. So a lot of similarity here between what these college pro football writers are writing and what I'm putting up. Number 22 this week is where I put Ashton Genty. So I had him sliding from number 12 to the Cowboys back to the Bolts. This makes a lot of sense for me. I don't know about you guys, but the college football writers feel that they are going to take the best guard in the draft, which was Tyler Booker out of Bama. Now, the week before, I had Tyler Warren slipping all the way down or to number 22, which, again, that kind of gives them that offensive blocking mentality and someone that can be a pass catcher. Number 23, the Packers. Nick Scorton, I would hate this move, but Nick Scorton is not going to slip much further. He is an incredible edge setter. He's going to be one of the best defensive ends in this draft, or edge rushers in this draft. Big guy. I think he's like 6'5", 280. Perfect. I don't care what team he's on. He's going to be perfect. Now, the college football writers feel going with edge makes sense, but it wasn't Nick Scorton. Matter of fact, it was JT Tuimoloau. Probably butchered his name. I apologize. Last week, I had Jade Barron going to the Packers simply because they're going to have some players that are going to be gone this season. There's going to be some action here in free agency, players leaving, possible trades from the Green Bay Packers this offseason. 24, Minnesota Vikings, Gray Zabel. This makes a ton of sense, especially if it's J.J. McCarthy that is getting the keys to the kingdom. Do not put a rookie quarterback out to pasture with a broken offensive line. That is what will kill your quarterback's future. The college football writers did not agree. They felt that taking an edge rusher in James Pierce Jr. makes sense. I don't know how that makes sense. Their defense is fairly loaded. I don't see them losing a ton of players this year. Even to cap purposes, I think that their defense is fairly fine. I think it's going to be an offensive lineman that the Vikings are going to take this season. Last week, though, I had them taking Colston Loveland, which would match up former tight end with JJ. Makes a ton of sense to me. But we know when things make sense, it just doesn't always happen. 25, Houston Texans. One of the biggest issues for the Texans, they need another outlet. They can't just rely on Tank Dell, Nico Collins. I think that Stroud needs another guy that can make plays on the outside, and Matthew Golden, special wide receiver in this draft. The college football writers feel that taking a Josh Simmons offensive tackle is the better play here. Last week, I thought it was Gray Zabel. So similarity here for me is either protect Stroud or get him a weapon. One of the two. Number 26, Rams, I selected Jelon Walker. Again, this is another can't-miss prospect. What they did on their defense last year with Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, why not stack upon stack upon stack that defense? I would. And, hey, if you've got a great defense and your offense is, treading water a little bit, you can still win a few football games, but they're definitely going to need an offense to make it into the postseason. For the Rams, taking Jelon Walker, look, that's a no-brainer to me. Last week it was Jihad Campbell, so I'm not stepping away from a linebacker. I think that's where the Rams are going to focus. The writers selected a wide receiver for the Rams, Emeka Egbuka, out of Ohio State. 27, the Ravens, I went with an edge with Princely. The writers went with Donovan Jackson, offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Last week, I went with Josh Simmons, which was a tackle out of Ohio State. So one way or the other, they're going to get somebody in the trenches, I think is the point here. For the Detroit Lions, I got murdered on this one. I took Walter Nolan. Look, the guy slipped in this draft. I don't think that he waits that long in this draft, but defensive line is going to be key for the Lions this year, especially with the fact that Lee McNeil is out and he's going to be out, indefinitely, probably late October is the word right now. Hopefully that changes. So you have to have somebody that not only can fill the pipeline, but can also step in and play right away. I can't imagine the Lions are going to go out and sign another big name free agent. Hopefully we'll see the likes of Broderick Martin making, full comeback and another body transformation and be able to help out this defensive line from rotational situation. Maybe we get Pat O'Connor back. Maybe we get a few of the other guys back from this last season, but it's still not enough. We need another defensive tackle of the future. Walter Nolan makes a lot of sense. Last week I had Landon Jackson, very, very special player. This week was Nick Scorton for the writers. Look, I would love to see Nick Scorton make it onto this team. I think that he's an exact fit to what we need. He is the exact mold of a Marcus Davenport and the edge setter and can crusher style of edge rusher. So it makes sense to me. I don't think that it's going to be anything but trenches for the Lions, at least right now until we get through the combine. 29 for the Commanders. I had Jack Betch. Let's get him, Jaden Daniels, another wide receiver. The writers had Luther Burden III, wide receiver. 30, I had Malachi Stark slipping that far to the Buffalo Bills. The writers took Nick Emanawari, another safety, so we do agree on the position, just not the player. And number 31, the Chiefs, that's where I had Amand Bembu. Obviously, they need to do something for Patrick Mahomes. That offensive line was terrible. Clearly, you could see it in the Super Bowl. Why not take a tackle? But for some reason, the college football writers took a defensive tackle, so they went the other side. Might be some options in the second round. I'm not sure how many picks the Chiefs actually have. And then Philadelphia Eagles, the last pick, I had them taking a wide receiver. Last week, I had them taking an edge. And the college football writers chose a linebacker. So that's your quick wrap up from this week's mock 2.0. And what did everybody else think of the mock? I'm sure that, my bad. I'm sure that there's a lot of differing of opinions. Eric, did you give any thought to this yet?
Well, I'll tell you this. Taking a defensive lineman would not bother me one iota. That is exactly what I want them to take. If that's the best player available, then take him. We need defensive line depth, whether it's at the edge or the inside, but we're going to need it inside DT. We need one because DJ Rader can't do it all by himself. He's got to have somebody next to him. Aleem's going to be out for a while. We don't know how long. He might not even be back this season. You don't know. We got to see how his rehab goes and everything else. And I know that Brad is not going to be unprepared with the defensive line this year. And it wouldn't surprise me if he addresses that in free agency and then he takes the best corner or the best safety or the best wide receiver in the draft because he likes to play the best player available game and he doesn't care on position. Now there's years like last year where he took two corners because we had a huge need at corner and we needed to start filling that pipeline with corners. You talk about your roster roulette. Well, you have to fill every position every once in a while from the draft. So it would only make sense for us to draft another defensive tackle.
I would agree. We're having a little bit of a voice issue. I see our voice is not aligning to the mouth on your end for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like an old Japanese movie or something.
Yeah, I'm Godzilla.
Yeah, interesting though. I don't know why that just decided to happen. and I look way overexposed on, like, my face is all extremely white. Don't know what's going on there either. Let's just turn that down a little bit. Gotta love YouTube. Something's going on with the codec. Something has to be going on with the codec.
There you go. Now you're sitting in the dark like me.
I just turned it down a little bit. Yeah, I look washed out, look yellow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to figure it out later on today. So what did you guys feel about the mock this week? Now, obviously, there's a lot more work to do, right? The combine for me is everything. Like I've said before numerous times, you know, when we don't have the benefit of what these NFL teams have, I mean, they have miles of paperwork on these guys. They know everything from their grade school teachers and behavior reports. So when you look at patterns and the psychological behavior aspect to this, that's what they look at. A lot of these teams will do the pattern analysis on the psychological behavior and follow it and figure out, you know, is this individual going to be somebody we can work with? Is this somebody that, you know, feels a good fit to our team, you know, whatever their culture and identity is? And then it obviously translates to the on-field behavior and what they do, you know, in their position and how good they are off and on the field. You know, you can have all the tools in the world, but if you can't implement them properly, it doesn't matter, right? I said that the other day, I think it was with Riley, that you could know all the information about an RV, but if you can't communicate it to a customer, you're not going to sell the RV. You know, you've got to be able to communicate. And communication is huge for football. So, look, I'm glad that a lot of the picks that I've been putting towards these teams early in the process, that other people are feeling the same way. I mean, about half of them aligned, at least positionally, if not name. That's better than where I was last year. Last year was not as good of a draft for me. I feel like I put way too much work into the first one, but that also lended to the best result. You know, I had the trade from 6 to 12 for Gibbs. I had Jack Campbell. I had Hendon Hooker, Sam Laporta. I mean, Miles or Branch. I had them all. And this year, I hope I can get close, but we know that it's rare, you know, for those things to happen. I mean, you look at the guys like Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, or Tom Pelissero. I don't care anyone that does a mock draft. Hardly any time do they get this stuff right. And I think that speaks to the level of difficulty that it is. And even though those guys are plugged in, you know, they're plugged into these teams, I think that tells you something else too. You know, either they're holding information back so they don't sell out these teams down the river, or they're just getting it wrong. You know, they're being fed a line of BS, and it's just not translating into what's actually happening. At the end of the day, it's like gambling, man. It's like rolling the dice. That's all it is. You got 500 some odd players that are potentially going to get drafted. It's very difficult to get it right. So I think that this year I'm going to do something different in my final mock. I'm going to go player, obviously name, but position. And then I'm going to have a positional mock that I feel like the Lions are going to go here, here, and here, you know, positional. So at least if we get one wrong on the name, we at least get the position right. So next up, Detroit Lions news, Brad Holmes' strategy and positions of need. A little bit of a roster review here. So the draft strategy and positions of need, I feel, are drastically different between NFL teams. You started talking about it a minute ago, you know, how Brad Holmes, he does things differently, right? Whether it's best player available, or whether he's drafting for a need, which I don't think he's ever really done. I think that he's drafted the best football player as opposed to a need and fill in a hole. I think a lot of that happens in free agency. So the Lions draft strategy appears to be shifting, though, towards maybe acquiring some immediate impact players rather than developing raw talent. So when you look at what the Lions have done the first 4 seasons, they've had this combination of both. They would bring in raw talent, and then they would also bring in guys that could play immediately. I think a lot of us forget that when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell took over this roster, it was a roster of nothing. And I don't mean any ill will towards the athletes, the players that were on those rosters. What I mean is it wasn't a team that was very functional. It wasn't a team that was put together in a way that was fruitful to what they were trying to do for our future, right? They had to start over. And that's why there's been so much roster attrition, in the first 3 seasons of the Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell era. So you were drafting more raw talent, more projects, because you needed some guys, hopefully to hit, but you also had some guys that they selected that they could play right away. So what exactly am I talking about? Well, in 2021, we saw likes of Malcolm Rodriguez start. Eric, do you think that Malcolm Rodriguez would have started on the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles team this year?
Hell no.
Exactly. And the reason why is because they already had their roster filled out. They would have drafted him as a depth piece in the 5th round, but he wouldn't have been starting. But the reason why he was starting, like Calvin Shepard told us through Hard Knocks, is you can't keep this guy off the field because he's making the right decision. He's a cerebral football player. He's in the right place at the right time. So how can you keep him off the field? He may not have all of the athletic ability. He may not meet all of the size requirements that, most linebackers meet. But let's be honest. I mean, Malcolm's a hell of a football player, but he would not be a starting Mike or, outside linebacker on just about any other team being drafted as a 5th round draft choice. But there's a reason why he did start. And that's because the Lions didn't have anybody else. And the guys that they did have, he was outworking them. That's a raw talent drafted player. That is someone that checked off a ton of boxes and was hopefully going to work into a great rotational piece. I mean, just last season, there was talks that he might be on his way out because there was other players that were beating him out. And the year before, he was on the offense. He was playing offensive snaps more than he was the defense. So when you added more players to the defense, he kind of got edged out a little bit from his linebacker role, and he was back there playing H-back. So got to give Brad a little bit of credit here, a lot of credit, that the players that we drafted early started because that's what we had. Not because we could have anything better without spending money. Oh, wait, we didn't have any money. We had a ton of dead cap. So I get kind of nauseated here when I see, whether it's SOL fans or whomever, just completely bashing Brad when maybe they don't understand the executive side of football, or maybe they don't understand how a team is put together. You just can't put a team together overnight, snap your fingers, and it's done. It just doesn't work that way. So is Brad going to change this season? And I would say right now, today, I feel that Brad finally has an opportunity to do something different. So let's start with edge rusher. Aiden Hutchinson's obviously recovering from an injury. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Zadarius Smith's $11 million contract. And then you have players in this draft like Nick Scorton, Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams. You've got 4 or 5 Ezra Cow edge rushers that could fit this team in the first round. Absolutely could. So when you look at Aiden, is he going to come back? Is he going to be the same player? Don't know yet. So yeah, you could see an edge rusher taken in the first round because you want to backfill the pipeline. You play the roster roulette game. You're going to extend Aiden at some point. You need to have a young, high-quality rookie starter in his place that can back up and or be on the other side. So it's not going to be another Aiden. It's going to be the can-crushing, edge-setting type of an edge rusher like Nick Scorton. Now, with Zadarius Smith and his $11 million contract, are we going to find anybody better than Zadarius Smith for that kind of money? I don't think so. I really don't. If he puts up 10 sacks a season or even 8 sacks a season, go look around the league. How many non-starting or high rotational players or even the second, edge rusher in your 4-3 system has more than 8 sacks a year? Not many. So I think that what we have is just fine. I would hope that Zadarius Smith can stay because I think that the untapped vision and small sample size that we've had so far of Zadarius Smith, but the untapped vision of seeing him with Aiden, that excites me to no end. And to have another high-profile rookie, whether it's the first or second round, right behind these guys, that excites me even more. What would you say about edge rusher right now? Where do you rank edge rusher as the most important, or do you feel like Zadarius Smith may not be around? Do you feel the big changes are coming and it starts there?
Honestly, I think edge rusher is second or third.
Okay.
I really think that we need a defensive tackle before we need an edge.
And that's simply because of Lee McNeil.
Yeah. That's the thing that scares me the most is Aleem being out for a while and taking a bunch of edges, whether it's in free agency or the draft. Let's say you double dip there. Let's say you get one in free agency and you draft one and you keep Zadarius Smith and you keep the other guy around. You got this big stable of edges now. So that way, if this happens again next year, you're prepared. Okay. You have all these guys, but then what are you going to do up the middle? Because you have to be able to get that pressure up the middle. Otherwise, the edges, the guys are just going to run up the gut, or they'll wait until the edges crash down and then the quarterback will sneak right up the middle of the line. So I believe that, in my personal opinion, the Lions need a defensive tackle, and going crazy on the edge is not going to be the way to do it. I know everybody wants people like Myles Garrett and they want two super great edges, but look around the league. You tell me, did the Philadelphia Eagles have two top 5 edge defenders in the Super Bowl this year? Did the Kansas City Chiefs have two top 5 edge defenders in the Super Bowl this year? No, they didn't. Now, they might have had one, but they didn't have two. And it's kind of a pipe dream to have Aiden and another guy like Aiden on the other side. I just don't see it happening.
Trying to adjust your speech here. I don't know if it's working or not. I've never messed with this thing, but we'll roll with it for right now and see what happens. I would agree. And, Michael Lukes, good morning, says, am I crazy? Or is DT more of an immediate need? Both of our edges could play for the entire season. The same can't be said about our DTs. Aleem won't start the year. DJ Reader is oft injured. Levi is a free agency. Someone's calling in right now. I apologize. I'm not taking calls this morning, but I do want to open up the phone lines tonight and today and talk about the Lions. Let's get the phone lines open today. Look, Michael, you're not crazy. I mean, it's the same thought that I've been having too about Aleem McNeil that I think is the biggest worry that we should have is we're starting this season without Aleem McNeil. And, DJ Reader got healthy. He played phenomenally last year for what he was able to do. I think that he's going to have a stacked season. I think he's going to have a better season. There's even been talk that we might move off of DJ Reader. So that's what today's kind of about. Let's talk about this roster. Our big change is coming. So I started with edge. You kind of brought it to DT. Let me get this back open. I started with edge, and here's what I'm looking at. Let me get the Lions. And I apologize. Some of these rosters are not exactly correct, and I can't keep track of everything right now. But let's just look at our depth chart here for a moment. Oh, it's not going to whittle down for me. Come on, man. Hold on. All right, let me get into edge. So, Aiden Hutchinson finished the season on injured reserve. Marcus Davenport finished the season on injured reserve. He is an unrestricted free agent. John Kaminsky, obviously injured reserve, also a free agent. Al-Quadin Muhammad, unrestricted free agent. Mitchell Agood, he's a exclusive rights free agent. And then Jonah Williams, unrestricted free agent. According to this site, John Kaminsky, Al-Quadin Muhammad, Mitchell Agood, and Jonah Williams have not been tendered. They have not been given a futures contract. Is that your understanding too? Do you have the futures contracts up?
No, I couldn't find it.
Let me grab it real quick. I got it right here. So Abraham Beauplan, Kingsley Eguakon, Jake Fromm, Deron Gilbert, Eric Hallett, Jamarco Jones, Tom Kennedy, Chris Smith, Lauren Strickland, Stanley Thomas Oliver, and Isaac Ukwu. This was back in January 20. Those were the guys that were given futures contract. So none of these edge guys have been given a futures contract. Now, even though Marcus Davenport is an unrestricted free agent, he still has a $2.3 million cap hit this season. Does it make sense to bring Davenport back? I think so. You know, you could probably get him on another cheap one-year deal. I don't think that would be an issue. And you start the season with him, you know, to work into a starting position, but you're not going to hand him the starting position. If you had him as a rotational player, I think that would be great. But then what does that do to a player like Zadarius Smith? He's set to make $5.8 million this year. He had 0 guarantees or $9.5 million in guarantees. I don't know why that there's two numbers here. But let's just say he's got $9.5 million guaranteed. Spending 10, 11, 12 million on Zadarius Smith is not a big number. But the question is, big change is coming. Is he gone? Are the Lions going to move on? Are they going to trade him? They could trade him. What could you get back? Could you get your third-round pick back? And here's my question. Would you get something in this draft with a third-round pick that is commensurate or better than Zadarius Smith is to start the season? Remember, we need a starter. And the answer would be no, unless you take that third-round pick, another third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, I don't care, all of your seventh-round picks, and move back up into the top of the second round, and then you grab another early edge rusher, and maybe you double down on the position. I do love the double down effect of Brad Holmes in the draft. You draft two of them back-to-back if you can. What does that do? It fills the pipeline, number one. Number two, now you got two guys battling it out in camp. Who's going to win? Right? Who's going to win? And the one that doesn't win the starting position is now immediately backing up Aiden Hutchinson. So I love that theory. I love that process. But I would not get rid of Zadarius Smith in place of anybody else right now. So I don't think that there's going to be any big changes coming to the edge position, but we don't know what's going on with Aiden, and that's why I feel they're going to double down on the edge position in this draft. I do think they're going to try to get Marcus Davenport back, at least to start the season with, on a cheap contract with a low guarantee. Josh Paschal will be back. I mean, he filled in admirably at a position that he hasn't played since college. And we watched his tape the other night in the members only. Josh, I mean, he reminds me a lot of Nick Scorton in college. He just needs to drop 20 pounds. He needs to get leaner and faster if he can definitively play on the outside. John Kaminsky, I'm good on. Look, John, love the dude. I think he's a great human. Probably wouldn't want to bring him back. You know, if we're looking to elevate this squad, he's not the answer, in my opinion. Mitchell Agood, I mean, he showed glimpses. He's an exclusive rights free agent. I don't know that you're going to want to, you know, tender him with a high tender. Jonah Williams is still a young reserve option, unrestricted free agent. If you could bring him in as a cheap contract, as camp consideration for competition, I think it makes sense. I did like what Jonah did immediately, but again, he's joining a team at the last second that didn't practice all season in that scheme. And now we're starting a new season, new defensive coordinator, potentially newer scheme or updated scheme. I would love to see him come back. But overall on the edge, I think it's Aiden. I think it's Davenport. It's Paschal. It's Smith. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I think that he has an opportunity to come back. Jonah Williams, Mitchell Agood. I think the Lions are going to go heavy, but I think that they're probably going to have 11 or 12 edges in camp. And I think 2 of them will be in this draft.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we're going to get rid of somebody like Zadarius Smith at all.
No.
Unless someone's willing to overpay. All right, defensive tackle.
Brad's not going to get caught with his pants down.
No,
it's not going to happen again with edge. We're going to have a bunch of edge in training camp for sure.
Well, it seems like every year we seem to have, 10 to 12 defensive linemen. And there's a reason for it. And I think now more than ever, you have to have that pipeline full, and hopefully some guys stick around. We've developed a culture now where guys that may not make the team are looking at it from the perspective of, man, everybody played last year. We have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl on this team. even though I'm an elder statesman in the league, I don't have to sign with another team. I'll give you a handshake deal, Brad. Go ahead, cut me. I'll see you back on the practice squad. So that does happen, believe it or not. It does happen. But you mentioned defensive tackle, and just like Michael Lukey's mentioned defensive tackle. And if you see any messages in the chat, just let's shout them out if you could, Eric, because I can't look at the chat right now.
Yeah, I saw a good one. Let's see. Brent Lighton put, Davenport is good for the 2 games you get from him. If we bring him back, shelve him for the playoffs, laugh out loud. Well, you got to remember, Brent, that his injury wasn't a reoccurring injury. It wasn't something that's happened to him 15 times in the league. That's the first time he's ever had a torn triceps from some guy pulling on his arm and hitting his arm.
Paris Johnson.
So yeah, it's not a reoccurring injury. If it was a reoccurring injury, like it's his ankle again or his knee again, then I would say, yes, Davenport is a wash, get him out, where I'm on that train with Mosley now, where Mosley blew one ACL, then he blew the other, and now he just can't stay healthy enough to even get in a game. I think it's just time for Mosley to go.
Mosley's definitely got to go. All right, so let's talk about defensive tackle here. But before I do, let's look at Zadarius Smith's contract. Okay, according to Spotrac, Zadarius Smith is owed a base salary of $1.5 million. He has a roster bonus of $2 million. So if he makes the roster, at the end of August, he's $3.5 million in. He gets a roster bonus of $510,000. So now he's $4 million in. So his cap hit is 4.010 on the season. That is literally 1.46% of the total cap. And the cap is going to go up almost $30 million again this year. Now, if we do keep him, yeah, we do have some option prorations that the Lions restructured with him, and these are void years. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, about $5.6 million in dead cap after the 2025 season. He would be an unrestricted free agent in 2026. So if the Lions were to pre-June release the Lions would have a cap hit of about less than $1 million. If they do a post-June release, they will have a cap hit in 2026 of $5.6 million. So obviously post-June doesn't make sense. If they do a pre-June trade, they will have about a $3.5 million cap hit. If they do a post-June trade, they will have a $3.5 million cap hit in 25 and then a $5.6 million cap hit in 26. Now, some of that goes to the next team, right? So anything after this season would go to the next team. So I'm not sure where some of the information is coming to, but let's say we sign him to an extension. Let's say we just add a year, at $5 million, $5.5 million, 1 year. We can add some signing bonus to it. Let's just say 1.5. Roster bonuses, sure. 2025, we'll go 1.5. Guaranteed at signing, we'll call it guaranteed at signing. Are there any roster game bonuses? We'll go no. Option bonuses, no. Workout bonuses, no. Void years, we'll throw 3 void years on the list. So if we were to extend them for an extra year, get them for this year and next year, we'd have a cap hit that is definitely favorable. But you're talking, I don't think that worked right. It didn't add in everything else. I'll come back to that one. The point that I'm saying here is I would definitely look to extend him for a season, restructure some of this. So if you do want to trade him, that you have an easy out for next year, that your dead cap hits are easier on the ball club. what did he make in 2023, right? He signed a 2-year, $23 million deal back in, it had to be back in 2024. That's not terrible for what this guy does. 11 million bucks a year for, 8 to 10 sacks, and his production and the quality of play and the type of leader he is. I don't think that you want to get rid of the dude at all. Not at all. All right, defensive tackle. So given the injury concerns surrounding Ali McNeil and Mekhi Wingo, I think that bolstering this position is critical yet again this season. Now, you have prospects like Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan. Goodness, if you could get Grant to slip somehow, or you trade up, which I don't think the Lions will do. There's some really interesting defensive tackles in this draft, and I do believe that there's going to be some options in the second round. Are we going to be getting rid of anybody, Eric? Do you think that, given DJ Reader's contract, that the Lions may opt to try to trade or do something with DJ Reader?
What does he have left on his contract? Just 1 year or 2 years?
I'll tell you in just a second. It should have been 2 years from the time that we brought him in. So this is his last year. He's owed $12.9 million. If we release him, we've got about a $5 million dead cap, plus some bonuses in that, that could come to play in the future for signing bonuses and such. But I don't think that we restructured his deal, if I remember correctly. Oh, no, wait. Hold on. March 14th, the Lions signed him to a 2-year, $22 million contract. So $11 million a year. I mean, that's not terrible, right? It's not terrible. Tell me another player that you're going to get that can play as well as he did at $12 million bucks a year. Remember, Ali McNeil, he just signed for $20 million a year. And I don't know a lot of fans that are, extremely excited about that signing. I like Aleem for what he is. I like for what he's turned into, but he's not a Jalen, he's not a Carter. He's not, some of these other big time defensive tackles. He's more of a pass rushing style of a defensive tackle. He's not a gap eater, which we need a gap eater. And that's what DJ Reader is. That's what Broderick Martin's supposed to be. It's a gap eater, double team eater. So I guess I'll go back to the question. At $12 million bucks for him, at $11 million bucks for Zadarius Smith, are either of those players any of your concern, or do you feel like those are players you have to keep around to build on?
Yeah, we have to have veterans on this squad, and their contracts are so minimal. They're fine. I don't see any problems with either of their contracts. It's just they're both in the last year of their contracts. And I don't know why so many players and fans get so worked up about a player being in the last year of their contract. Not every player can be under contract for 3 or 4 more years. It just doesn't work that way. And I think these guys this is basically their prove it year. DJ Reader coming off of all the injuries that he had. He missed 1 game last year, and then he had a few times where he had to come out of the game last year. I don't think he missed any more games other than the first game, but he was on a limited snap count for the first half of the season. And I think DJ Reader did a hell of a job, when he was in there. And I think we need to get him help. That is the number one thing on my mind this whole offseason, is that middle of the defensive interior.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So when we look at contracts, right? Aleem McNeil's contract is only $6 million bucks this year. And if they were to move off of him this year, it's $24 million. The Lions have an out on Aleem McNeil in 2026, where their dead cap is only $6 million on the year. Obviously, there's more interesting numbers to that, guarantees and such. But Aleem McNeil's contract this year is only $6 million. So when you combine that with DJ Reader, you're paying, call it $19 million for 2 starting defensive tackles. That's pretty darn good, especially when you could add a rookie and possibly bring in another free agent, or bring back some of the guys that you played with last year that could help this team win. When you look across the league, Ali McNeil will end up being now the 4th highest paid defensive tackle in the league. That's crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy to me, especially when you look at players like Chris Jones. He's obviously at the top, 31.7. Christian Watkins, 27.5. Matabuiki, 24.5. I wanted Matabuiki last year in a trade. That is a guy that I would have paid for. I don't know that I would have given Aleem $24.5 million or $24.25 million. Quinnen Williams on the Jets, $24 million. Jeffrey Simmons for the Titans, $23.5 million. DeForest Buckner for the Colts, $23 million. Deron Payne, $22.5 million. Dexter Lawrence from the Giants, $22.5 million. So on goes the list, right? You keep on going down. Where's DJ Reader? DJ Reader is the 31st highest paid defensive tackle at $11 million this year. So we have 2 guys in the top 32 as far as pay. That's their APY, right? That's their average. That's not what their contract is this year. The fact that we have 2 guys for less than a top, let's see, that would be a top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, top 15. We have 2 guys that are in the top 32, and we're paying less than 1 guy costs in the top 15. I think that's pretty good. You know, of course, when you look at, the percentages, which is how I look at contracts and how it affects a team, obviously, neither one of those guys should be going anywhere. But then again, is Brad Holmes going to do something crazy like, okay, Browns, I want Myles Garrett, but I'm trading you DJ Reader, I'm trading you back Zadarius Smith, and I want my 3rd-round pick back, and then I also want Myles Garrett. We'll eat some of the contracts for these guys, help you with some Yeah, I think that'd be the dumbest move ever. I heard this one the other day. It'd be the dumbest move ever. But anyway.
We taking Watson too?
What's that?
We taking Watson too? Giving them Hooker?
Yeah.
God.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Deshaun Watson, he'll be backing up Jared Goff. Come on, people. Let's be real. But I think that this is a draft that you have to address it. Right? You have to find someone that can fill in for Ali McNeil right away. The fact that we have DJ Reader, who's healthy, that knows this defense, helps. And that means that you can put in a rookie next to Reader. You can bring back, some of the guys that we had on the defensive line, such as, okay, we had Ali McNeil, DJ Reader last year, Levi O. All 3 of them were starters. Pat O'Connor was a reserve. Mekhi Wingo was a backup. Kyle Picot, clearly a guy that was going to have a good season, was having a good season before he was injured. Love to see him come back. Broderick Martin hasn't proven anything yet. He's that raw athletic project. Who knows? 2 off seasons of lifting weights. He had a great transformation last year. He was playing good in preseason. This could be the year that he finally shows up. I thought Miles Adams was good. Now, he's a restricted free agent. I'm expecting him back. Guys like Chris Smith, he's got a futures contract. I'm not extremely excited about that futures contract. But the Lions right now are starting with Chris Smith. Miles Adams is restricted. And Broderick Martin, Levi, DJ. I'm sorry, not Levi. DJ and Aleem. And they have Mekhi, not Levi. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 guys signed to the interior defensive line right now, of which Mekhi and Aleem McNeil are injured, and they're going to be out for quite a while.
Yeah,
so this
Wingo
is another area that the Lions could double down on.
Was Wingo another ACL?
I think it ended up being an ACL.
Because it was just a knee for the longest time, or an ankle, and they didn't say what exactly it was.
Was that the one that was PCL, MCL, and not ACL?
Something. That's what I mean. It was a weird one. So I don't know how long he's going to be out.
Yeah,
but he was looking really good there for a while.
He was. And being a rookie, the fact that he was able to play inside, outside. Again, I thought Brad Holmes hit a home run on bringing this guy in. A late round in the 6th round. Clearly has more heart than I think people gave him credit. And I think that he has the raw athletic ability to turn into at least a high, producing rotational player, which is what you expect after the 3rd round. So Again, I think that grabbing a defensive tackle is going to be key. Do I expect any big moves here? I don't. So right now, I think that our edge and our defensive line, I don't expect any big moves right now. I think the big moves are going to be on the offensive line, and I think there's more potential for that. You know, I mentioned Taylor Decker a few weeks ago, and I said, look, this guy's getting older. He's been a liability over the last couple of seasons. He hasn't been the same. There's times last year that he was beat badly. And now we're walking into a situation where, you know, Zeitler's probably going to be too much to retain. Penei Sewell's locked in. Graham Glasgow did not have a good season on the left side. He's probably going to go back to the right. Mahogany looked good. But how do we know that Mahogany is not going to come in this season and maybe not play well? We don't know that. He played well last year, but we don't know what his future outlook is. We really don't. We got a short glimpse of what he was able to do. But Taylor Decker's been concerning to me. And look, I try not to be sentimental. I try to leave the bias at the door when I walk in the studio of being a Lions fan and try to give, you know, that unbiased review. It is hard with Taylor because I feel like Taylor's such a great dude. He really is. And you know, part of this offensive line is the fact that a lot of these guys, I mean, they're like brothers. They hang out with each other all the time, and that's what you want to see. These guys genuinely care about each other. And I think that does bode well for a better unit up front. But at some time, you just need to get better. And this is another draft this year where I'm not so sure that Brad Holmes isn't considering the future over a good dude. And those are the hard decisions any GM is going to have to make. And we just gave him an extension. Now, my question to you is, Eric, throughout the history of the NFL, sometimes teams will extend a player with the idea of, well, we need to find an out on their contract and also have a good enough contract that is tradable. Personally, I don't think that Taylor Decker wants to play for another football team. I think that he wants to retire a Detroit Lion. He's been in the league now, 10 years? Over 10 years? He's drafted in the first round, number 16 overall. I think it was 2016, so maybe not quite 10 seasons. Maybe this will be his 10th season. But this year, he's expected to make $23.4 million. And he's let up 13 sacks over the last 2 seasons? That's not a top tier left tackle, in my opinion. What do you think?
He's starting to show his age. Doesn't mean he can't come back and have a better season this year. Maybe he works on some stuff. I don't know if that's just him slipping to these younger, faster defensive ends. I don't know what it means, but you have seen a slip. I think him and Glasgow are the 2 weak links on our offensive line. There seems to be more flags, more sacks, more pressures from those 2 positions than any other on the offensive line. I think Frank was super solid. I think that Zeitler was fantastic. Penei Sewell was fantastic. When Mahogany came in, he was fantastic. If I'm the GM of the Lions, I probably try to get Zeitler here in 2 weeks in free agency, bring him back, and then I let Mahogany and Graham Glasgow battle it out to see who wins a job on that offensive line and which one's going to be the backup for the year. And then you are going to have to, possibly in the first or second round, you are going to have to take your left tackle of the future or your right tackle of the future, unless you have a feeling that Giovanni Manu is ready to get going. And if Brad has the pulse of that situation, he's going to know whether the kid is ready to start pushing for a position on the line, or if he just needs another season of sitting on the sidelines again, like he did last year. I'm guessing they are going to play him a lot in the preseason, but you may see Brad take a second or third round tackle whether it's a left or a right tackle, just for some insurance if Manu doesn't work out.
So taking a look at Taylor Decker's stats right now, 8 sacks allowed in 2024, 31 pressures, allowed 4 hits, 4 penalties. Obviously, he played, the largest majority of the season. And what we see is a trend, right? He was, mid 70s as far as a grade, which is good. But I don't think that when you're looking at an elite left tackle, money-wise, because right now, he will be the 9th highest paid left tackle in the league. 9th. That's a ton of money for someone that's given up that kind of work. In 2023, he gave up 8 sacks. In 2023, he allowed 7 hits and 38 pressures. So over the last 2 seasons, he's allowed 16 sacks, 15 hits, 69 pressures. 2022. I think 2022 is where he started to battle some injury. But he had 4 sacks, 9 hits, 33 pressures. A little bit better of a season. 6 penalties, though. He had an uptick of penalties, but I also feel like he missed a few games that season. I think he had like a hand injury or a shoulder injury or something, if I remember correctly. 2021, 7 penalties, 2 sacks, 5 hits, only 15 pressures. 2021 was like the last great season of Taylor Decker. If we remember, there was a period there where he didn't allow like any sacks for like 2 seasons or something crazy. Let's go back to 2017. He allowed 2 sacks. 2016, he allowed 5 sacks. It might have been coming out of Ohio State, like 2 seasons, he didn't allow any sacks at all. What I see is a trend that's getting worse as he gets older. He's allowing more sacks, more hits, more pressures. This league is transitioning to faster, edge rushers or outside linebackers that can totally take advantage of a 6'7" guy that's getting older. Far too often his feet seem stuck in the mud. He wasn't as nimble as what he has been in seasons past. So how do I compare him, right? Like, let's compare him for a second. Who would you say is the best tackle we should compare him to? We got Deion Dawkins, Laramie Tunsil, Christian Darrisaw. Let's look at Trent Williams. So Trent Williams is the highest paid.
Pretty sure he was hurt for San Fran last year.
You might be right there. He played 650 snaps, so I'm not sure how many games that he actually played, but be that as it may, he allowed 1 sack, 3 hits, 17 pressures. Out of 700 snaps to Taylor Decker's, that's how I compare it, 900. 200 more snaps, would Williams have added 7 sacks? Would he have added another 20 pressures? I don't think so. I just don't. Let's look at Williams back in 2023. 0 sacks, 3 hits, 18 pressures, 809 snaps played. That's a premier left tackle. 2022, 1 sack, 2 hits, 15 pressures. All right, so we know that Trent Williams is that guy. All right, let's compare dollar for dollar. Taylor Decker is almost dollar for dollar to Deion Dawkins. And Deion Dawkins last year for the Buffalo Bills, 959 snaps, 3 sacks, 4 hits, 22 pressures. That's a damn good season. Kind of like a damn good haircut at Jude's. In 2023, 1,120 snaps. He only allowed 1 sack, 7 hits, and 34 pressures. In 2022, he allowed 3 sacks, 2 hits, and 30 pressure. So I think that we have the answer. That Taylor Decker's slipping. And with that kind of money, going out to him this year. I mean, $23 million, $23.4 million. I don't know how Brad cannot have a conversation about this contract and about the player. So let's look at a pre-June 1 trade. What would happen with Taylor Decker if we traded him? Well, he has $12.6 million in signing bonus prorated that would hit the Lions. He has $3.9 million in restructure. And then he has a $16.5 million cap hit. The Lions would lose $8 million by trading him prior to June. Post-June, the Lions would save $13.9 million. They would be on the hook for a $7 million cap hit this year and a $9 million cap hit next year. That would be the dead cap. So $16.5 million, they would save $13.9 million. That is the only way it's possible. Is it worth saving $14 million over 2 seasons? Or rolling with Taylor Decker this year, and if someone's better, so be it. You trade him at the trade deadline and deal with it at that point, or before the trade deadline. But you do bring in somebody. I think the answer is to your point too. Like, the Lions have to seriously consider taking a left tackle early. I don't trust that Manu is ready. I would love for him to be. Guy's going to be an absolute road grader. But I don't think that I would want to trust this offense and the way that it's built on a 2-year, old UBC guy right now. And I love Manu. You know that. I'm really, my ball's in his court. I love what he does. So what's the chat saying? What do you guys think? Are you guys in or are you out on Taylor Decker? Do you keep him one more season? And do you backfill the pipeline knowing that Taylor Decker's probably just not the player he used to be? And for some reason, Brad decided to invest in him. But if I remember correctly, Taylor Decker's contract was signed before the season, correct? So we didn't know what Taylor Decker was going to be. Brad's probably kicking himself right now thinking, man, I just spent all that money on Taylor, but he did it for the right reasons, right? The culture, the identity, good dude. I mean, great football player. He's just not where he used to be. Tough decisions, man, because as a fan, you love Taylor. As, let's just say, as an analyst, you would probably think otherwise. You would probably be ready to move on.
I'll say this too. Had the Detroit Lions won the Super Bowl, Taylor Decker would have retired.
Probably.
Now, will he retire after this season? Maybe. You don't know. But he's getting up there, and he may decide to call her quits sooner than later. So these future years, you might not have to worry so much about. Because if he retires, I think that's it for his contract, correct?
Say that last part again.
It saves him some money if he retires versus cutting him.
I've never seen a retirement clause in the contracts as far as, I'll message dude over at Spotrac today and say, what do you need to use for a retirement? Because if they retire, then obviously all the guaranteed money doesn't go to them. It's probably only that season and the rest of the contract is null and void, but the team still holds their rights.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think Taylor's going to be traded at all. So when we're looking at the trenches this year and having the conversation about big changes that are looming potentially, I don't think that there's going to be any big changes to what we do on this offensive line as far as Taylor Decker is concerned. Obviously, Penei Sewell's going nowhere. But then the next guy's Frank Ragnow. Now, Frank had probably one of his better seasons in a long time, especially with injury. He said at the end of the season, it was one of his better seasons, that he felt good, like he could go out and play, the next week. That was good to hear, because after the previous year at the end of the NFC Championship, you could clearly see the emotions were high. Now, Frank has been a tank, man. He is one of the smartest, hardest working football players out there. He's been critical to the Detroit Lions. Obviously, we need him, right? Goff needs him. He hasn't signed an extension or done any reworking of his contracts. There were some rumors last year that it was coming. But May 6th of 2021 is when he signed a 4-year, $50 million contract extension. And when you look at some of the highest paid centers in the league, Frank is number 2 right now. Creed Humphrey is number 1 at $18 million. There's about 4 or 5 guys, Lloyd Cushenberry, Ryan Kelly, Eric McCoy, Tyler Biadasz, that are all in that same dollar range as Frank, between 12 and 13.5 million. What has Frank done on the field? Have you had any concerns about Frank Ragnow? I mean, this year it did not look good at times, but the games that I thought didn't look good, for some reason he was getting high PFF grades.
Well, didn't he tear a pec or something this year?
At some point,
right,
yeah.
early on. Yeah, and he just played right on through it. I think he missed one game and played on through. Frank's a warrior, man. I don't think you need to necessarily draft your center of the future this year, but taking one in the, I don't know, 3rd, 4th round, perfect. Use that comp pick for a center. I wouldn't be mad.
So when you look at his production this year, he only allowed 2 sacks, 7 hits, and 20 pressures. So that's a pretty solid season. Look at 2023. He only allowed 1 sack, 5 hits, and 18 pressures. So if you look at what his production has been, even back to 2022, he only allowed 1 sack, 0 hits, and 13 pressures. Frank Ragnow has been Mr. Consistent. Every year, year in, year out, he's been great. Now, I will say at times, he may not be giving up a bunch of pressures or sacks, but his pass block, we've had some issues. His pass blocking has not been the greatest. His overall grade, right, his run blocking grade, and when I say grade, it's not so much PFF as it is watching the tape, right? Going back and watching, some of the highlights of the games and watching how he's working on some of these plays. Pass pro is a problem for him. He's kind of midline in the league right now as far as his pass pro, but you can't beat him in the run block. The guy's incredible in the run block. And I'm expecting this year, we are going to utilize more of a run heavy scheme. I think it'll still be balanced, but I think it's going to be a little bit more run heavy scheme and, or, a little bit more screen game, which we're going to need an athletic guy like a Frank Ragnow that can get out to the second level. In my opinion, though, and Brad Holmes, because he just said a few weeks ago that, oftentimes people think that you should be, getting that guy of the future. Can't really waste a spot on the guy of the future. Maybe it's not an early pick. Maybe it's that guard that can play center. That's the one pick that I've been adamant about for a couple of seasons, is we needed a guard that could play center, or a center that could transition to guard until Frank was ready to retire. And I agree with you. I think that finding that center that can play guard this year would be the right move. But I think it's center to guard, not guard to center. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Frank's
We
going
got to
nowhere.
stack these guys like, we got to stack these guys like cordwood. We can't not have someone in the pipeline ready to go.
I think, again, this is kind of where you're at. You're at that situation now where you're going to have to look constructively at your roster and say, I mean, the tape's out on Decker. We know that he's slipping. We've got to do something. Where is Manu? Is he ready? Is he close? We won't know until OTAs what kind of shape he's in. His footwork was tragic last year, like tragic. So that's got to get better. But I think from a knowledge standpoint, I think Manu's going to be fine. I think that, understanding the game and playing at a high level, I think he's going to be great. The game has to slow down for him. And I think that he's going to your point too, he's going to have to get a lot of play in, especially a lot in the preseason. Hopefully we get a couple of games, a couple of matches during training camp this year with other teams. And I think that would help him develop as well. When I look at the offense, look, Taylor, Frank, Panay, that's our core. These guys aren't going anywhere this year. I don't expect any trades. I don't expect any big changes happening. Manu, my God, if you put him at left tackle, that would be insane. Mahogany obviously is going to get his crack at left guard. All right, what did I say? Left tackle. I mean, if you put Manu at left guard, that would be insane. Mahogany's going to get his shot at left guard. Graham Glasgow, you just paid him, I don't know, what was it? 3 years, $6 million a year, $8 million a year, something like that. I'll look it up. One sec. Should have these open. Spotrac. If you open up Spotrac, you just type in the name. Yeah. So Graham, he's due 7.5 this year. Dead cap pivot of 5.3. So Graham ain't going anywhere. You're not going to save $2 million, spite your face to save $2 million. No way. But next year, there's an out there where you've got 2.9 million in dead cap. So that does make more sense. So Graham's sticking around. But back at right tackle, I think where he belonged in the beginning, he also can play center. Gives you a little bit of security behind Frank Ragnow. In 2023, he was admirable. I mean, playing all across the line, had a great season. It's exactly why I wanted to see him back. Brad felt the same way, brought him back, rewarded him with a contract. Did not have a great year last year. Maybe some of that was Frank's fault. In the pass protection scheme, it just did not seem fluid between those two guys. There was way too much distance between them at times. Maybe that cleans up a little bit with Mahogany's play and his footwork, which I felt was a lot better at times than Graham Glasgow. So putting Graham back to the right, Mahogany to the left, guard positions. Your three pillars, left, right, and center are good. Now we're talking about backups. Who do we have for backups on the roster? Who's coming back this year? And where are the Lions potentially going to be making a play in this draft? And here's your offensive line right now. You got Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. Dan Skipper is a free agent. Colby Sorsdahl, not impressed. Giovanni Manu. Jamarco Jones was signed to a futures contract, and I think that was an incredible move to make. I don't know why Jamarco Jones did not get elevated more last season. When I watched Jamarco in the preseason, or throughout the season, he looked good. He looked really good. I thought that he was an elevation above others. Connor Galvin is an exclusive rights free agent, but that's your offensive tackles right now. So obviously Penei, Taylor, they're not going anywhere. I would not be mad if Colby Sorsdahl does not make this roster. He is not impressed. He is not, that's been a failed William and Mary attempt. I get it. The guy's an extremely intelligent individual, but his play on the field has not been to the level you would expect. Giovanni Manu, to me, has an opportunity this year. You can't put a guy that big in at guard. I just don't think it's going to work. You could put him in as an extra offensive tackle, which is maybe where Dan Skipper is no longer with the team this year if they decide to utilize Giovanni Manu in that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, depends if Manu can catch a ball or not.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to matter now that the Benedict Johnson's out of here.
Yeah.
As far as Zeitler goes and talking about interior offensive line, so we've got Frank, we just talked about. We've got Graham. We got Christian Mahogany, good to go this year. Kayode Awasika is a restricted free agent. Kingsley and Netnani Moody both signed to reserve futures contract. So Moody ended the season on injured reserve. Again, these are all depth guys for right now. But the only person that we're really losing for sure is Kevin Zeitler. I think the interior offensive line play needs a major elevation. Mahogany was a great fill-in, so I think we're good there at left guard. I'm not extremely impressed with the rest of this crew. Nice, Awasika, Eguakon, and Moody, I'm not extremely impressed. I do think that the Lions are going to take an offensive guard in this draft. I just don't know if it's going to be by the third round. Last I checked, Lions draft picks this year, I thought we had 2/3. If I'm not mistaken.
No, we only have one.
No, we only have one. That's right. We traded that third round pick last year for Manu. So we should have a compensatory pick.
Yeah.
So we have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 7ths.
I don't think we have a fifth.
I didn't think we had a fifth either.
We have 7 total. with 2 sevenths.
I'm trying to find the updated list.
Because we traded our 5th to the Browns, I think, for Zedarius, didn't we?
I thought that was a third.
Oh.
Maybe it was a 5th.
There was some trade he did for a 5th.
Let's see. Okay. We have 28, 60, 101. We have a 4th round that's to be determined. A 6th and a 7th and another 7th apparently to be determined. That was as of January of this year. I don't know why none of this has really been updated or why I'm not finding it right away. I thought that I had it saved on my PC, but I guess I don't. Interesting. I'll have to find the actual sheet. I don't know why I can't find it. But to my point, the whole point here is I think that we are missing a 5th. And I think between the 5th, 6th, 7th round, that is not what we want for a high quality backup on the offensive line. You might get lucky and find one, but again, to what I said the other day, even 3rd rounders play less than 15% of all snaps in the NFL. So when you get past the 3rd round, I mean, if you get lucky and find a player that is able to play, at a high level, great. But that is so few and far between. And you can't expect that. Just because Brad Holmes has hit on a few players, you can't expect that he's going to find the next draft diamond that is covered in mud in the 5th round. You can't expect it. But what you can expect is typically the guys that are selected in the 1st and 2nd round have the most probability of starting in the NFL, if not this year at some point. The 3rd round, 15% or less are going to start. And I think even fewer than them are going to start in the 1st season. But finding a guard in the 3rd round, I think, can start right away. And there will be more options in this draft for guards a little bit later in this draft. I think that's where the Lions will double down on defensive line or triple down on defensive line and take an edge, a tackle, and a linebacker at, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round. Is Brad Holmes going to do some sort of trading? Are these big changes coming so that he can get more draft picks to move up? Because I'll tell you, a 6th and 2 7ths is not going to do much for us. So give me your thoughts. I guess, what do you think as far as where the Lions might do their damage here? How early do you want us to take a guard to kind of fill this pipeline? Where do you think it comes from free agency?
Well, yeah, it all centers around March 12th. So when the league year starts here pretty soon and we get into the tampering period and we start seeing who the free agents are and where they're going, that's going to determine everything, because I truly believe that Kevin Zeitler is coming back. If you can believe I think it was his wife's Instagram, they took a picture and they, it was like, "We love it here," something about Detroit. And if you had to ask me right now, I'd say Zeitler's coming back for another year or two.
I would love to believe that Instagram was the answer.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it is. I think the answer is the agent and what the agent thinks. Obviously the players got to have some say in that. You got to have a good working relationship. But look, again, I'm looking at what can we do damage-wise with our picks. Give me 2 seconds here. I got to grab something. I'll be right back. 2 seconds. If you want to roll into something else real quick, I'll be right back.
Sure. Let's see what else we got here. So another player that Brad and Dan are going to have to make a decision about, and this is another free agent. So this is a player, should the Lions retain Tim Patrick? According to Sue Levine, there's one free agent of the Detroit Lions that Brad Holmes should make every effort to re-sign. Previously, Will and I have discussed that we would both be on board with such a move. This article argues that the Detroit Lions should prioritize re-signing wide receiver Tim Patrick in the upcoming offseason. There's a summary with the main talking points. So here we go. The Lions GM Brad Holmes faces a tough decision with 31 free agents, but Tim Patrick should be a priority. Despite joining the team late, he quickly became a reliable target for Jared Goff. His experience, chemistry with Goff, and relatively low cost make him a valuable asset. And he was super reliable for Jared Goff. Once he got in and learned our system, you got to remember he wasn't here for the entire off season. This guy came in late and was coming off of 2 very major injuries in 2 seasons, but he had proven experience in the NFL. He had a solid track record with the Denver Broncos, and he had an ability to produce. He's overcome some significant injuries and showcases a lot of resilience and work ethic. And Patrick and Goff developed a strong connection, which is crucial for offensive success. Now, in Denver, John Morton was the passing game coordinator and now is our offensive coordinator. Guess who worked with John Morton in Denver? Tim Patrick. So there's another cost-effective wide receiver that is going to know how to work with John Morton. John Morton's worked with him in Denver, and now he would be working with him here in Detroit. I just think it makes a perfect fit to bring back Tim Patrick. Now, there's other teams like the Jets or the Bears with our former coordinators that might make a push to try to bring Tim Patrick in. But I think that he makes the most sense here in Detroit. He's an absolutely perfect fit. And then seeing that he worked with Johnny Morton for a couple of years, that makes me want him back even more. Now, I do believe that we're going to have to, at some time, either this year or next year, we're going to have to draft some wide receivers. We have to get that pipeline going, and we need that big-bodied, make the contested catch type wide receiver. But for now, I think Tim Patrick is the perfect cost-effective option. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you want to necessarily lose Tim. I think that he did. I think that he did develop and prove to himself and everybody else that he can still play this game, coming back from some nasty injuries. I think that there's more on the horizon for him. I think that the ceiling is much higher than the floor is lower. I think that he'd be a great addition, but then again, I'm definitely in the boat that we do need a big body wide receiver, 6'3", 210, 215, or better, that can take over the downfield boundary style of play, the contested catches like you mentioned, the back of the end zone guys. We do need that. You can't always develop or depend on Sam Laporta to do that. Heck, I wouldn't even be mad if the Lions went after another early tight end. Like, that wouldn't bother me one bit if they found another pass catching tight end. And then you've got, 2 extremely lethal tight ends on the field. I think either way you go about it, we also need a tight end because you just don't know what's going to happen with Shane Zielstra if he's going to come back this year. I mean, that's just another area we haven't gotten into today. But, yeah, I think the Lions are going to have to draft a wide receiver this year. It's just, I'm looking at the draft picks. So here's what we have. 28, 60, 101, 133, 198, 230, and 246. That's 8 picks.
Oh, really?
That's according to Pro Football Network. Those are our picks. Now, I don't know why. It seems like there's a lot of differing information out there. These must not be fully correct. But just go search Detroit Lions 2025 draft picks, and you're going to get 6 different things that say 6 different things.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any bit of sense. I don't even know if they're listed on the Detroit Lions website.
Yeah, I wonder if it's at DetroitLions.com.
I don't know why it's differing everywhere. Doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me. And I can't keep track of everything. I just can't. So I expect other people to do it, or for it to be done somewhere where we can find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't this hard to find it last year. Look it on the website now. But anyway, let's just roll with that. I know that we had a third this year, and with a compensatory pick, we were going to have 2/3. Right? And then next year, same thing. We are going to have 2/3.
Yeah,
So
should next.
if Pro Football Network is correct, yeah, we know, J-Rod, we don't know what's going on with the delay. I have no clue what's going on. I don't know how this happened. It seems like every day something new is happening.
Weird.
No clue.
We're in a, what do you call it? We're in a Japanese movie today.
It just shouldn't be happening. So maybe it's the browser studio. So anyway, let's just look at our picks for a minute. 198, 230, and 246. What are these things worth? Well, according to the draft pick calculator, which I don't think this is correct either, 907 points. 907 points. So what pick constitutes 907 points? What did Brad Holmes trade? So Brad Holmes trade for Broderick Martin will give us a better idea of what we gave up. So we traded a fourth, 122, and 2/5, 139 and 168 to move up to 96. Now, if I were to pop that into the draft calculator, the draft pick calculator, this is what it gives me. So we traded 139 for 96. We added 168 as well as 122. Altogether, 139, 168, and 122 were worth 177 points. And number 96 was worth 197 points. So we actually gained 20 points, if that makes sense. We gained 20 points. So by trading away 2/5 and a fourth, in getting number 96, not only do we get only one pick, but we also gave away less and earned more. That usually doesn't happen. It usually goes the other way. You're going to have to give up more to get less. So let's look at it for our picks this year. 246, 230, 198. Something is wrong with this because it's giving me more points when it should be giving me less. Something's wrong with this calculator today. Let me go into a different one. Let's see here. Number 246 is worth... God, I got 60 screens open. Number 246 is worth absolutely nothing. It's worth 1 point.
Oh, wow.
One freaking point. Number 230 is worth, again, these are 7th round picks. 1 point.
Hey,
Worth
Will,
nothing.
I think I'm going to have to dip out and dip back in. My video froze, and now...
Oh, yeah, you're all screwed up.
Yeah, so I'll dip out and dip back in.
All right. Pick number 198 is worth 11 points. So again, these picks are worth squat. Pick 133, round 4, late 4th, is worth 39 points. If the Lions are trying to get into the second round, which is where I would expect that they're going to be able to find some meat on the bone here, whether it's double or triple down on the defensive line or adding an offensive guard, I think that they're going to have to get, well, I would love to be ahead of the Packers because they have pick 42 and 45. We're at pick 48, I guess. This is the wrong draft. Let me look at 25. Come on. Where's it at? Are you back in, Eric?
Yep.
All right. I just turned auto gain control off, so just double check your audio. All right. Looks like it's better. We don't have any volume from you, though. Oh, that's interesting. Lost volume from you. You're not muted? What in the world?
The heck?
All right, now I got you. I got to double check mine now, though.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right.
I just got to double check audio one more time.
All right. I can do the same. Yep. Yes, Mr. Thomas, I'm alive.
All right.
They said I looked dead. I wasn't moving.
Yeah. Okay. So when, again, looking at the draft pick value chart, if you will, and I don't know why it's not letting me look at 2025s without taking me something to totally different area, which I don't want. I don't want it. I want the value chart. I hate the internet. Like, I'm so over it.
It's nice when it works.
Yeah. Okay, so again, if I feel like the Lions should get to, and they want to get above 40 to stay ahead of Green Bay, I think that's a wise choice. At a minimum, get ahead of 44 to stay ahead of the Bears. Of course, those are last year's picks. Again, it's not giving me 2025s. I just want to stay ahead of those two guys. If the Lions are going to move up, it doesn't make any sense to pick behind them. Let's try to stay ahead of them if we can. Let's just say it's pick 40. Well, that's worth 500 points. So if the Lions were to trade, both of our 7th round picks in 198 and 133, it's not worth anything. So if you're going to move back into the second round, it is going to take a 2025 second round pick to do it. And then it's also going to take probably a 3rd round compensatory pick from this year to do it, or from next year to do it. But they're going to want something from this year. For the Lions to get back into the top 45, I'm expecting a second round pick and at least this year's 4th round pick to do it. Because the Lions are historically picking at the back end of the draft right now. Teams are looking at that and they're saying, wait a second. You're probably going to be picking in, the bottom 7 picks of the draft next year. At least that's what we're expecting. So we need something that's commensurate to that. Well, let's put the Lions at the top 45. They're going to trade next year's 2nd. They're going to trade maybe this year's 3rd, which would be unwise. And probably next year's 4th or 5th, or this year's 198 or 230 to get it done. But what does that give you? Well, that gives us pick 28, pick 60, pick 45, and pick 101. If we can maintain those 4 picks in the top 101 this year, I'm only seeing where the Lions are going to add four race cars to this team. And all of them have the opportunity to start, especially the first 3 picks. If we can get 3 in the top 60, I think that's all we really need. That's your edge rusher, that's your DT, and it's probably a linebacker, and then your next pick at 101 or whatever it is in the top 120 would probably be your guard. I think that's where the Lions are looking at right now. More of this will be put together. This is all off the cuff today. A lot of this is just conversation. We're just kind of rolling through it. But I'm definitely going to put a lot of these plays and trades, together for the next mock draft. There's going to be a lot more information that I'm going to compile. We can have a more intelligent conversation on it. But big moves for this year. I don't think we're going to see, to recap what we're talking about, I don't think that we're going to see players like Zadarius Smith or DJ Reader be traded or moved off of or cut or released. Kevin Zeitler, as much as I would love to have him back because he did play so well, if we got 90% of what Kevin did from Mahogany, would you be mad? Probably not. I mean, I would love to have Kevin back, but he's older. He's going to require a lot of money. And I think that if you would rather sink your money into securing defensive line or edge, retaining some good pieces, linebacker, trying to find an outside linebacker, I think that money would probably be better spent on the defensive side of the football. And you could find, some offensive pieces in the draft. There's definitely some good guards in this draft where you could do that with, and tackles that you could do that with. And I think it just makes more sense. Find a proven commodity for your defense. On the offensive side of the football, I think that we have enough pillars and enough backups right now that it makes sense. The Lions need to bring in at least one top-tier offensive lineman in this draft. We'll end this, I guess, segment for the day. So we could just go on to talking about every position, and I want to be more prepared for the next one. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, we need a lot of stuff and a lot of positions. So don't be surprised if Brad drafts some positions you weren't thinking of. And there's going to be some surprises. He's going to move up. He's going to move back. This is going to be I think this is going to be one of those crazier drafts for Brad Holmes. This might be where he tries to set us up for future years. So maybe not as many projects as we have gotten the last few years. Maybe not a Manu in this draft, more day one player type of players. I think that's going to be more of a mentality this year. We want guys that can play right away.
I would wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. I think that's going to be more of the draft strategy this year is let's get some guys that can play right away because we're going to be losing some players really soon.
Yeah, I see the chat's going hot about Davenport. I just want to make sure my position's clear too that, I think Davenport was having a good season, and I think he was the perfect choice for this team for what our defensive strategy and scheme was in at least last year. He was playing great. That Paris Johnson hit took him out of the game. And so instead of trying to argue with somebody about Davenport, let me throw another player into the ring here. Because I've casually asked, what do you think about Carlton Davis? So if you don't like Davenport, are you in the boat of bringing Carlton Davis back? I would love to know right now, yes or no, on Carlton Davis at $15 million a year. And the reason why I'm asking is for a reason, obviously. And no, I'm not trying to attack anybody intentionally, right? I just want to have a purposeful conversation about this situation because I think there's a lot of hot air that gets spread around players like Davenport of certain individuals, and it's completely wrong. And then I think people eat it up and they listen to it. And you can agree to disagree. That's okay. I have no problem with that. Like, your opinion is your opinion, just like mine is. We can all eat at the same table and eat different stuff. I don't like green eggs and ham. I just don't.
I like Spam. My wife won't touch it.
I can't stand Spam. That stuff is so terrible.
Yum, man.
So here's the question. All right. So we got a lot of people saying, yes, bring him back. Carlton Davis has missed more games than Davenport. Carlton Davis has had new injuries every year that has caused him to miss games. He's missed 23% of the available games that he could have started. 23%. And he made $15 million last year, $10 million, whatever it was, whatever the number ended up being. Davenport made like $5 million. And yeah, he got injured after a few weeks, but he was intentionally injured. I put the video together. You've got to go watch it again. You will see, and a lot of people have agreed that was an intentional hit. There's an arm chop, right? And then there's an arm chop and pull and a twist at the same time that is not normal. One, that's holding. You can't hold someone's arm, right? An arm chop is supposed to be where your arms are coming in as a defender and you're coming down. You're trying to get rid of the arms off of your body. But pulling an arm in and going like this is a penalty and unnatural. So you secured the arm. That is an MMA move. You secured the arm and then you release that tricep off the bone. You pulled it. You pulled it away from his shoulder. That is why Davenport was injured. But if you're willing to pay $15 million to Carlton Davis, who's had more injuries and missed more time than Davenport has, I have a problem with that. Because I'm not going to blame someone's injury past for what they could have been or what they were at the time that they just got injured again. That's like me saying Carlton was a huge waste of money, not worth it, because he got injured again. And he missed, guess what, 23% of the snaps in 2024. So that's a history and a pattern that has followed Carlton his whole career. Davenport, I mean, being a former first-round pick, he's had some pretty solid seasons. Maybe he doesn't last the whole season. A lot of NFL players don't. What are we going to think about Aiden Hutchinson now? So he just missed an entire season, but 5.5 games. What happens if he gets injured again this year? What are we going to start saying about him? Are we going to start to penalize him because he missed all of last year as a freak injury? Or if he gets injured again this year with another leg injury, are you going to start to say, yeah, probably shouldn't have him on the team? I think these are fair conversations. And I'm not saying Davenport is a starter. I don't want Davenport as a starter. I think that this is a year that you have to get a rookie future, of your team, someone that can be a high valuable rookie for the future. I think that Davenport fixes an immediate need that you can pay him a low amount of money. It's almost like Mosley again, but not. Like Mosley was injured, wasn't even back yet, got injured again, brought him back a third time. It's like, come on, enough's enough. Like, can't keep bringing Mosley back. This is different. I think that Davenport can still play at a high level. Freak injury, intentional injury, but as a rotational piece, you let him battle it out in camp. You give him a low guarantee. You give him, like Eric, you were talking about it just like a week and a half ago, an incentive laden contract.
Yep.
If he's willing to take something like that. But you know what? The Jets might just take him off our hands anyway. So,
yeah, I'm going to say league minimum and some incentives, just like his contract from last year. It doesn't hurt us. We can cut him at any time. Really doesn't hurt our cap. So why not let him battle it out in camp and see what he can do? And I think he'd make a great rotational backup. I really do. I think he'd be great and good for teaching a rookie that's coming in. You got to have that veteran presence in the room with the rookies. Someone to push.
So I just seen someone threw in there that Davenport has missed 45 games. He hasn't missed 45 games.
Yeah, Brent does not like Davenport.
No, I know he doesn't. But he was drafted in 2018. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Call it 7 seasons. And when you look at the actual injury history, going back to 2018, he missed 3, 7, 11, 12, 13, 17, 19. He missed 19 games before this year. 19. And so then this year he was injured in week 3. So that's 33 games that he's missed throughout his career. And the most is because of an intentional injury by Paris Johnson. So if you want to call all 14 games that he missed after week 3. And that was a season-ending injury. I don't know how you can keep that. If you look at Carlton Davis, don't get me wrong, I love Carlton, man. I think he's an absolute baller. Love his attitude. But here's the thing. When I go to the injury history, it says for Carlton Davis, high risk of duplicating injuries. When I go to Davenport, come on. Get me out of here. I don't want this. What is that? When I go to... Why is this doing this? Whatever. This thing's being stupid. when I go to Carlton Davis, it says high risk. Here, I'll just show you guys.
One thing is when he came over from Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay fans, they loved Carlton Davis. Their only complaint was how many games he missed.
Right.
And he was often injured. They said, be prepared for him to not play every game because he won't play every game. That was their only complaint.
All right, here you go. Here's Carlton Davis. High risk, 64.9% of injury chance. His durability is a 5. Projected games missed in 2024 was 1.25. He missed way more than that. Chance of injury per game, 6%. And it has all of his injuries down here, right? Or most of them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's got to be some missing in here. Obviously, they don't have 24 in there. He missed 23% of the games. When I go to Davenport, I don't know why this is doing this. It's trying to make me sign up for something. God, it's being dumb. I'm going to have to sign up for something again. But it does not, it says unknown risk. His durability is a 3.15, so it's lower than Carlton Davis. Oh, sorry. There we go. Lower than Carlton Davis. But again, I think that you have to have an honest conversation about what the injury was. I mean, like Carlton wasn't responsible for his injury. He didn't intentionally go and break his jaw. I mean, that is so unheard of. To break a jaw. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yep.
Look, I think that Davenport has more upside. Yeah, it's just, I think that when you look at what happened and the talk about Davenport, his injuries, this, that, and I think the real issue is you have certain people that say, well, we needed a top tier $35 million edge rusher on the opposite of Aiden. No, you didn't. And that was proven. Aiden was having his best season ever with Marcus Davenport on the other side. You can't deny that. And he was having his best season ever with DJ Reader in the middle. Can't deny that either. He was having his best season ever with the new cornerback play of Carlton and Terry and Arnold. Can't deny that. Everything that I thought the Lions were going to do this last season, they did in the offseason and the draft, and it led to Aiden having his best season ever until he was injured. And I think that is the same play that you're going to see out of Brad Holmes. Interior, you set the interior. Is there any, Larry, you don't have to, you don't agree with me to agree with me, and I know that. But when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles and you look at how they were able to win this season and have consistency throughout this season, it was the interior of the defensive line and their cornerback play that allowed that defense to do what it did. I don't think that there's any secret. I don't think that there's anyone that's really disputing that fact. We know the analysts for ESPN, CBS, Tom Brady, anybody else you want to think of that did that game said the same thing.
Just had a bunch of snow fall off my roof. Man, that was loud.
Fun stuff. Yeah, it's nice and sunny out today. So at any rate, I guess what I'm saying is there's a recipe that works in the NFL. It's trenches, always. You start with the trenches. When you feel that you've got a good lead on the trenches, you start to go to the back. You start to fill in the secondary if you don't already have somebody. But you definitely don't start with the edge and work your way in. That's just not how it works. You have to start on the inside. That's why Aiden was taken in the second draft, not the first. There's a process. And I think that when you analyze teams like I have and drafts for teams that have done well, the Philadelphia Eagles have went interior defensive line and have drafted everybody just about that they won that Super Bowl with. And it works. So if there's any sort of a blueprint, the Philadelphia Eagles, they have it. Go look at the Chiefs too. I mean, you look at how many players that they've drafted, and there's a reason why they're winning football games. Anything else you want to talk about today?
No, I think I'm good. Got a few things to get handled today. So,
all right. Well, let's be done. I know we went a little over today. We've got some conversations later on this afternoon. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell will be at the podium for the combine this week. If I remember correctly,
I put it in there.
I think Brad's first. Put it in my calendar.
Oh,
I'm going to try to be live for it.
Thought I did a topic on that.
I think you did too, but I think Brad is right around 1, and I think Dan is around 3:30. So I should be live for those.
All right. Yep. So Holmes will speak on Tuesday at 1, followed by Campbell at 3:30.
There we go. I'm really interested. So what I will tell you from years past, when I listen to them speak, I find out the nuggets that have helped me with figuring out what players they're bringing in. We'll just see if the right questions are asked. Because in years past, the right questions were asked, and I feel like some things have changed since then, especially this last year, that maybe certain questions aren't being asked, and that could be intentional. Because the blueprint was kind of given out. I'm not saying that they watch me or anything like that, but when you study the psychology of these guys, the things that they say, you can kind of figure out what they're going to do. And they've been pretty open, and I don't think that's a fault. I think that they've been pretty open and transparent about things. And, you know, I like to investigate. I go jump down the rabbit holes. All right. Appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you back here around 1 o'clock. We'll be listening to Brad Holmes talk about the NFL Combine and the future of the Detroit Lions for the 2025 NFL Draft. Combine on Thursday. I think I'm still planning, or Wednesday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? Defensive line. I plan on being down there at least for that, assuming that I'll be able to walk and get around, because that's a lot of walking. So we'll see you guys in the next one here shortly. Go and probably go Detroit Lions. You guys have a good day.
The Detroit Lions will